Good morning, Santa Clarita. You're listening to your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I am attorney Wade Skalsky, and you're about to experience Wade Beyond the Courtroom. On the board today, Mike Dowler. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well. Good morning.
Good. You got a little Johnny Cash in your voice this morning.
Oh, baby. Well, that's Elvis, though.
You know what? They all kind of come together during that time,
We're
really.
like, my name is Sue.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So,
good morning.
How are you doing today?
Doing well. Looks like the rain is kind of cleared out. Nice blue skies today.
Not bad.
Kind of threatened for 3 days. It would rain a little bit and clear up, rain and clear up. And now it's like it rained yesterday, I guess.
The weather cannot decide what it wants to do.
Exactly.
It's a little schizophrenic, but I like that.
Kind of like what our topic today. In a sense.
In a sense, yes. Our topic today is how to choose a lawyer.
Yeah.
What questions to ask. And most importantly, I have a report from Belize.
Oh.
Yes. So remember our conversation with line producer Jimmy Sprague about Naked and Afraid a couple weeks ago?
Yes.
So Jimmy gets on a plane. I actually had the opportunity to see him off. He gets on his plane. He goes down to Belize, and I get apparently the cell phone works down there because I get a text from him. And he said that Wade Beyond the Courtroom, he heard about his show from a person in Belize.
Really?
Yes. So apparently somebody that really likes the show Naked and Afraid listened to our podcast. Put it on his blog, and then someone from the show in Belize read the blog and said, Jimmy, we're on a radio show.
Wow.
And we're worldwide.
We're international now.
So now when I introduce myself to people, I'm like, hi, I'm Wade Skalsky, radio host of Wade Beyond the Courtroom. We're huge. We're huge in Belize.
Broadcasting to the world.
That's right. So we're international. Good. Yeah, it was a pretty funny text to get, actually.
Yeah.
Anyway, so today we're going to be talking about how to hire a lawyer. Now, this may seem like a simple topic, as the show would be like 3 seconds long if I was like, all you need to do is get on the internet, call up a phone, pay somebody. That's not as simple as that, though.
It's not.
The reason is that most of the time what happens in these situations is most people don't know that they're going to need a lawyer since they can't foretell the future. So when they get in a situation where they're like, I need an attorney, unless you know someone personally, unless you're one of my friends and you basically say, oh, I'll just talk to Wade, and Wade can either help me or recommend somebody. Most people have no idea the process of it. It's kind of like buying a car. If you've never bought a car before,
right,
you walk in there and it can be very intimidating. Right.
Very.
So we're going to take some of the mystery away from that today, and we're going to talk about a very simple process.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever had to hire a lawyer, Mike?
I have not.
Okay, good. I didn't want to get too specific if it was something crazy, but typically, I would always recommend to everyone the first step, no matter what, is if you know a lawyer, I don't care if they do circus law, it doesn't really matter, you go talk to them first.
Sure.
And the reason for that is that attorneys will always know other attorneys. And there's a saying that like attracts like. Have you ever heard that?
Yes.
So if you've got a good friend and he's a good guy or gal, and they are seem to be an upstanding person, typically they'll hang around with other people like them, including professionally.
Sure.
So you can trust recommendations or referrals from your friends most of the time because they're not going to steer you down a bad path.
And of course, most of they're hiring an attorney, do it at the 11th hour, and I think emotion probably plays in. So if it's somebody you know, it's a little easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going to the phone book and
that person can be an advocate for you,
right,
because if you're exactly right. Let's say that there's a death in the family and suddenly you need a probate lawyer, or your son or daughter gets a DUI and all of a sudden you need a criminal lawyer. In those situations, emotions are high. Mm-hmm. So if you can go to a good friend and say, good friend, I have this problem. Do you have anyone that you can recommend to me? That person can be an advocate for you, even if they don't end up representing you.
Exactly.
Make sense?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So, but let's assume that because most people don't like to hang around us because we're terrible at cocktail parties, you don't know any lawyers, all right, other than Wade Beyond the Courtroom, Wade at Use Wade, if you ever want to ask me a question. You basically have to start somewhere, either on the phone or on the internet. And typically you're going to narrow it down. What I would suggest to people is narrow it down to a couple lawyers, or say, I'm going to talk to these 3 lawyers, right, before I make a decision. Because lawyers, we can be kind of crafty and good on the phone, good in person. So unless you feel super, super comfortable with someone, it doesn't hurt to kind of shop around a little bit. Sure. And not shop around, we'll talk about fees and all that in a little bit. Not shop around necessarily for that, but shop around for what's a good fit for you.
Exactly.
Because a lawyer is going to be giving you advice, a lawyer is going to be talking to you, and you want to be able to make sure that you can interact with that person and you guys are a good fit so that you can listen to them, they can convey the information to you in a way that you receive well, and that you can hear them. Basically, so So let's say that you've narrowed it down to a couple lawyers and you've got an actual appointment to either talk to the lawyer on the phone or go see them at their office. Now, you'd be surprised, Mike, that a lot of people now with the internet, 10 years ago, nobody would hire you over the phone. Everybody would want to come into the office.
Right.
But surprisingly, because of the internet, people are way more comfortable with just purchasing things online or even just purchasing things over the phone. Many people will make a decision just by speaking to lawyers on the phone and say, this is my guy, and never meet them in person until a little bit further down the case. And that's go ahead.
Good, bad? What do you think?
Well, I think it can be very good because everybody's busy.
Yeah.
Right? The only downside to it necessarily is if you get someone who's really a lawyer who's very, very good on the phone, in terms of his phone skills are very high, but necessarily in person he doesn't have the sort of gravitas that you might need, and that can be a downside, but mostly not a downside at all. So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about the actual specific questions you can ask a lawyer to sort of help guide you through the process. You're listening to Santa Clarita's hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I am Wade Skalsky. This is Wade Beyond the Courtroom. Welcome back, Santa Clarita. You're listening to your hometown station, AM 1220. I am attorney Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond the Courtroom. So, Mike, we've narrowed it down to a couple different lawyers that we want to talk to because we have some type of legal issue. What legal issue are we experiencing today?
You pick one.
I'll pick one. I will. All right. Let's say
I never get in trouble, so legal issues really aren't an issue for me.
our neighbor's tree has fallen onto our yard and caused some damage.
Good one.
All right, perfect. So we've got a giant tree in our front yard. We don't know. Do we need a lawyer? What do we do? So we've got some lawyers. We got it narrowed down, and we actually now have an appointment. All right. We're going to walk into a lawyer's office. Let's just say that's in person because you want to kind of go eyeball to eyeball with the guy or gal. Or you can call them on the phone. It doesn't really matter if you want to save time. So obviously the first question that you want to ask someone is about their experience. It doesn't do you any good. So I'm a criminal defense attorney. That's the bulk of my experience. And so broadly, I'm not going to be able to help you. I have absolutely no idea what to do in that situation. I would be like, let me get on the phone with some of my colleagues and find a lawyer who actually knows what they're talking about.
Now, is it that you don't or that you don't specialize in that kind of law?
Well, I have a general idea, but I have no problem telling people I have no clue what you would do in that situation.
And let's backtrack just a second.
Sure.
Is a lawyer a lawyer a lawyer? Can a lawyer technically do any law they choose to do?
Well, technically, once you have your legal license, you can file moving papers for any type of case. I mean, just because I don't know anything about that type of law doesn't mean I couldn't file a motion on it. It means that the court would take it because I have a bar number. I'm licensed in the California, state of California. I don't know what the California is, but the state of California. And so, yes, in one respect, a lawyer is a lawyer is a lawyer. If someone comes to me and a friend comes to me and says, hey, I have this issue in small claims court, can you help me with it or something like that, then yeah, I could probably figure it out. However, the issue is that there's a big misnomer that law school teaches us everything about all aspects of law. The universe of the law is enormous. And so all you will do is get yourself into trouble if you go into areas that you don't know anything about, because there's almost as if once you get out of law school, you have your legal license, then you almost enter into an apprenticeship. And what I mean by that is it's like sort of the old school days where a blacksmith would take an apprentice and he would teach him the tools of the trade. Well, typically the way that works is that lawyers will go into an area, they'll go work for a big firm or another lawyer or a government agency, and they start you at the bottom rung of the ladder with regards to what to do. So when I was a prosecutor, they started me in traffic tickets. They're like, okay, even if you mess this up, it's not really a big deal. And then as you go, you progress, then you start to do misdemeanors, then you start to do felonies. And then if you keep going, a few years down the line, you can do capital murder cases, whatever. So that concept is true in all lawyers. However, lawyers are in an economic universe in terms of they run their businesses. So some lawyers, when they're starting out, young lawyers, will take cases they know nothing about. And that's why these initial questions are so critical. What you always want to ask somebody is, how long have you been practicing in the field or this area of law?
Right.
You don't want to ask, I've been practicing for, I barred in 1998, right? So I was told there'd be no math on today's program, but whatever that is, it's 17 years. So if you were to ask me, well, how long have you been practicing? I'd be like, well, great, 17 years.
Yeah.
And if you didn't go forward and say, well, have you ever handled a case like mine where a neighbor's tree crashed on their property? If you don't ask me that question, then you could feel comfortable saying, oh, I have this lawyer who's going to help me. He's got 17 years of experience. Little known to you, I've never done a case like that before.
Right.
So it's critical when you talk to a lawyer, you need to pin them down on exactly their experience. And a lawyer, a good lawyer that's not shady, will have no problems telling you, yeah, no, I've been doing this tree law for like a long time.
And by the way, that'd be a civil case, wouldn't it?
That would be a civil case, yes. The easiest way to think about it is civil cases involve money, criminal cases involve jail.
Okay.
So those are the two options that we need to know about, basically separating those things. So, but yes, that was a very astute observation, Michael. Okay. Now, then the other thing is and lawyers kind of solve this problem with marketing. So they'll tell you on their website, they'll say, hey, we do this type of law, or we've done this type of law for that amount of time, or whatever. So the issues there those issues are kind of solved for you doing that. Now, let's say that you're deciding among 3 or 4 lawyers that all do the same thing. They all do tree fell in my yard law, whatever, which isn't really the type of law, but for today, our purposes, I'm making it up. It's my show. I get to do that. Now, when you're going to start questioning them, it's not just enough to know, all right, how long have you had this experience? You want to know how they're going to manage your case, all right? Questions you can ask them are, what are some of the possible outcomes of my case? Because you want to know if it's even going to make sense for you to hire a lawyer.
Yeah.
So you want a lawyer to then lay it out for you. Well, it could cost you this much money, or you could get this much money, or whatever, so that you can make an informed decision with regards to what to do. Some people don't know that you don't have to go into court for every single case.
Right.
There's things called arbitration, mediation. Yeah. And so you want to know what your alternatives are to resolving the matter and how long it's going to take to have everything shake out. Sometimes I had a little over-caffeinated.
That's okay.
I got so excited about it. Sometimes legal cases can take years, so I don't really want to have an issue in the court with regards to my neighbor for 3 or 4 years. Maybe we can resolve it with a letter.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
So all of these things are really, really important, especially too, you want to get a sense of communication with the lawyer itself. Am I going to get a call from your assistant? Am I going to get a call from your paralegal? Am I going to talk to you directly? So for me, for instance, I give my clients my cell phone number so they can call me whenever they want. I prefer that they text me or call me during business hours. And sometimes I'll get a call late at night or, Sunday morning during my radio show. And I'm like, I can't really take this call right now.
Exactly.
But I tell people, look, try to give me a call during normal business hours. Unless the SWAT team is coming into your house, then feel free to call me. So, which I've actually had happen once.
I'm sure.
Yes. No, I did. That's a true story. And I said, please get off the phone and immediately comply.
Yeah.
That's usually a good idea. So listen, when we come back from the break, we're going to talk a little bit more about generally how fees and costs work with attorney. I am attorney Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond the Courtroom. Welcome back, Santa Clarita. You're listening to your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS. I am attorney Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond the Courtroom. So Mike, we're talking a little bit about how to hire a lawyer, what questions to ask, and I forgot about a very important fact that you need to know about your lawyer.
Yes.
Is, with the age of the internet, you don't really know physically sometimes where lawyers are located. So if you're hiring someone that's, let's say, on the internet and you're hiring them on the phone, you can actually be talking to someone that's in Ontario, for instance, and you're in LA and you need an LA lawyer, but your lawyer's in Ontario and you don't necessarily know that because they can have an address on their internet site. Is that what the kids today are calling it? The internet site? The homepage?
Website, homepage.
Yeah, something like that. I suddenly went back to the 1980s all of a sudden. They've got this new thing called a fax machine. I'm very excited about it. And so, what like a virtual office is? Like a Regis office, ever heard of those?
Yeah. Where you can go in and...
So you'll go on a lawyer's website or whatever, and you'll see, oh my goodness, they have all these offices all over the place. Well, sometimes lawyers will just have like a Regis office that will be... So they can be in Ontario, but they'll have an LAX office, or an LA office, and it'll just be a Regis office. So you want to know where your lawyer is located. If he does LA County cases, Orange County cases, Riverside cases, whatever.
Right.
So that's another thing is geographically, where are you physically located? You also want to make sure that your lawyer is not in Nigeria and asking you to help you with rich uncle's money situation. Don't do that.
Yeah.
So basically, all right. So you've got a lawyer, you've got it down to brass tacks, if you will, and you're choosing between two different people. And now let's talk about sort of fees and costs. Now, not very exciting, but very critical in terms of when you're hiring an attorney, because there are two basic ways that people will be charged for services. Okay. The first way is for billing by the hour, and this is what most people expect. They're like, okay, the lawyer's going to charge me a fee per hour when he works. And lawyers that do civil work, they will keep track of their time in 6-minute increments. Okay. So you're like 6-minute increments? Yes, 6-minute increments. And that's very critical because if a lawyer's billing you $500 an hour, you want him to preferably bill you in 1-minute increments, but they don't do that. So if you pick up the phone on a case or pick up a file on a case, boom, 6 minutes, even if you only spend a minute on it. But and then the second way that people can ask for or that are charged is by a flat fee. And this is actually better for the consumer because then you know exactly what it is that you're paying for and how much it's going to cost. Yeah. An example of this is in criminal cases, we'll say, all right, somebody comes in, someone's got a DUI, they're like, all right, what is this going to cost me? And then you say, X number of dollars for the whole case, all right, or X number of dollars for trial, because you don't want them to bill you by the hour. Yeah. Because in that situation, then lawyers sort of have an incentive to sort of bill up the time, if you know what I mean. Sure. And civil lawyers, they get this a lot, but it's legal work is expensive. So that is one thing that you want to understand. Is going to be a flat fee? Is it going to be a billed by the hour? You want to establish the fee that the lawyer charges you, and really too, some lawyers too, what they'll do is they'll bill you by the hour for everyone's work in your office. So let's say, for instance, you've got a paralegal helping you. Well, that paralegal won't bill as much by the hour, but they'll still bill that by the hour too. Sure. So like you're my paralegal, I say, Mike, I need you to research this issue, and you go and research for 8 hours, then boom, 8 times what I tell you your billable hours are.
Now, if an attorney hands the case off to a paralegal, is it double billing? Is the attorney still billing and the paralegal separately?
No, double billing is when an example of double billing is, let's say that I get on a plane and I'm flying to do a deposition somewhere. Okay. Yeah. For company A, right? So I can bill that travel time to company A, right. The 5 hours I'm on the plane. Now, double billing is when, while I'm on the plane for company A, I work on a different case for company B, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm doing research and I'm writing something on the plane for 5 hours. So double billing is I charged company A for 5 hours for the travel, and I charged company B for 5 hours for working on their case. That's double billing. Right. You're really not supposed to do that. I'm certain that happens quite a bit. I don't bill by the hour, so I don't get into those conundrums. Mm-hmm. I just am a flat fee. If you come in, you have an issue, I will give you a number, and then we will talk about it from there. Okay. So that's what double billing is. And you actually, and big time firms have gotten into trouble with this. If you Google double billing or you Google billing problems or whatever, you'll see that over the history of time, giant law firms have gotten into some trouble with giant corporations because there's a lot of money throwing around. I mean, I have a friend who does real estate litigation or transactional work, and he handles real estate deals in the billions with a B. Okay. So when you're throwing a lot of money around like that, you got to be real dialed in terms of how billing is handled, and there's a lot of money being thrown around. So those are sort of some of the issues that you can run into, though, double billing or whatever, or people billing you for work they never did, which you can't do. And so these are all issues that you want to make sure that you can handle. Now, the one way that you solve that is you can ask for what's called an accounting. So if you hire a lawyer and he's billing you by the hour, he's required to give you an accounting of his time. Sure. And the reason that is because then you want to make sure, if you hire me today and then tomorrow you change your mind, I can't keep all the money that you gave me. I have to do an accounting of actually how much work I spent on your case. Mm-hmm. So that is to protect you. And all of this is usually laid out in something called a fee agreement. Okay. Now, the State Bar of California basically requires that you have a fee agreement for cases of a certain dollar amount in terms of that people are hiring you. I believe it's $1,000. So if you're doing something for $1,000 or more for a client, you're required to have a fee agreement. So that will usually lay out all of the issues. What do I if it's by the hour, what do I charge? I do an accounting. There are no guarantees. And so this is an actual document that you go over with your lawyer so that everybody's on the same page, and then you know what to expect. And there's a saying that I always have, though, is that whenever you're talking fees with a lawyer, is that I just spaced out on what is my saying, Michael? Slow radio time. No. I'm just kidding. Is that the wrong lawyer at the right price is still the wrong lawyer. Right. And so, look, if you're going to have someone help you with a legal case, you don't want to go to necessarily the cheapest guy around, because the cheapest guy around is working on a volume mentality, and he just cares about number of cases. That's all he cares about.
Quickly, contingency.
Contingency. Very good. Typically, contingencies are on civil cases that are like accidents and things like that. And what happens is I take your case for free. I don't charge you, but I get a percentage of what I recover. So if I get $1 million settlement for you, I'm going to take anywhere between 15 to 33%.
Okay.
And that's basically, but I front all the costs. I do all of the, doctor's visits. I pay the experts. I do pay for all the litigation fees and filing fees and all of that. However, so you want the important part of that is you want to have the lowest, maybe not the lowest contingency, but you want to make sure that you're not getting 40% on that for your lawyer.
We're out of time.
Well, you know
Good
what?
show.
It was scintillating for me. I hope it was scintillating for you. And remember, as Wade Beyond the Courtroom is, we're big in Belize.
Are you going to the Home and Garden Show?
I am going to stop by today with my wife. You'll see me over there. And so I hope to see you there, Mike. You'll be here on the board, though.
I'll be here till 1. Then Dodger baseball, Dodgers and the Padres.
All right. You've been listening to Santa Clarita's hometown station, AM till 1220, KHTS. Stay safe, Santa Clarita, and we will talk soon.